Jin stood alone in the empty hall. The large room had been full of people just minutes ago. They had all laughed at him. Now they were gone. And so was his career. Humans as an ancient power. Ridiculous. The head of the Galactic Academic Coalition had said this with a sneer. Your evidence is nothing but wishful thinking. Jin picked up his papers from the floor. His hand shook as he gathered the research that had cost him everything. 3 years of work, now called a joke. Outside the window, the gleaming towers of the Coalition headquarters reached into the purple sky. This view had once filled Jin with pride. Now it only reminded him of his failure. His communication device buzzed. It was a message from the housing office. He had 2 days to leave his apartment. Ex-members of the Coalition were not allowed to stay in Coalition housing. Jin walked slowly back to his small room. Aliens of all kinds passed him in the hallway. Some looked at him with pity, others with disgust. Humans were the newest members of the Galactic Alliance. They were expected to be grateful, not to claim they had once been greater. In his room, Jin packed his few belongings. Books, clothes, and his research notes all went into one bag. He had come to the Coalition with dreams. He was leaving with nothing. His device buzzed again. A job offer. Jin almost deleted it without reading. Who would want to hire a disgraced synorchaeologist? But he needed credits for food and travel, so he opened the message. Position available. Artifact cataloger. Yumha 7 mining colony. Low pay. Immediate start. Yumha 7. Jin had heard of it. A dusty rock at the edge of known space where companies sent workers they wanted to forget. The perfect place for someone like him. 3 days later, Jin stepped off a cargo ship onto the surface of Yumha 7. The air was thin and smelled of metal. The colony was a cluster of low buildings surrounded by massive mining equipment. A tall, thin alien with blue skin met him at the landing pad. You Jin? The alien asked in simple trade language. Jin nodded. I'm Vox, colony manager. Your quarters are there. Vox pointed to the smallest building. Start work tomorrow. Early. Cataloging room is behind main office. Jin picked up his bag and walked toward the building. He could feel eyes on him from every direction. Human miners watched him with suspicion. Alien overseers watched with amusement. Everyone knew who he was. News traveled fast, even to remote colonies. His room was barely large enough for a bed and a desk. The walls were thin, and he could hear voices from the rooms on either side. One was a group of miners complaining about food. The other was someone crying. Jin sat on the hard bed and opened his bag. He placed his research notes on the desk. Everyone thought he was wrong. Everyone thought humans were just another species that had been lucky enough to be found by the Alliance. But Jin had found evidence that told a different story. In old ruins and forgotten texts, he had seen hints that humans had once traveled the stars. That Earth was not the birthplace of humanity, but a colony. That humans had achieved greatness long before the Alliance had discovered them. Jin touched the worn cover of his main research journal. Inside were drawings of symbols he had found repeated on ancient sites across dozens of worlds. Symbols that matched nothing in the Alliance database, but matched perfectly with early human writing. I know I'm right, Jin whispered to himself in the empty room. I'll find proof. Even if I have to spend the rest of my life on this rock, I'll find it. Outside, the sun set on Yumha 7, casting long shadows across the dusty ground. Jin was an outcast now, but maybe, just maybe, that was exactly where he needed to be to find the truth. 3 weeks passed on Yumha 7. Jin spent his days in a dusty room full of mining equipment. His job was simple. Look at old tools, write down what they were, and put them in boxes. It was work a child could do. Jin knew the colony gave him this job just to say they had hired him. Box 437. Jin said to himself as he opened another crate. More drill bits. The storage room was huge. Rows of shelves reached to the ceiling. Most held broken parts and old machines that no one wanted. Jin had gone through less than half of the room in 3 weeks. He wiped sweat from his face. The air system barely worked in this part of the colony. Jin moved to the next box. The label was worn away. He pried open the lid and found it full of rocks. "Great," he muttered. "Someone's rock collection." He was about to close the box when something caught his eye. Among the dull gray rocks was something that glowed faintly blue. Jin reached in and pulled it out. It wasn't a rock. It was a crystal about the size of his thumb. It had smooth sides and sharp edges, like it had been cut with tools. The blue glow seemed to pulse, like a tiny heartbeat. Jin turned the crystal in his hand. As he touched it, the glow grew brighter. He nearly dropped it in surprise. "What are you?" he whispered. The crystal grew warmer in his palm. Jin looked around to make sure no one was watching. Then he slipped the crystal into his pocket. That night, Jin sat at his small desk, examining the crystal under his personal light. He had connected his data pad to record any readings. The crystal glowed brighter than before, casting blue light across his room. Jin touched a small button on his data pad, and a scanner passed over the crystal. Numbers and charts appeared on the screen. "This can't be right," Jin said. According to the readings, the crystal was giving off energy patterns that matched no known technology. It was also over 20,000 years old. Jin touched the crystal again. This time, it did something new. A beam of light shot up from its surface. In the air above the crystal, a pattern of stars appeared. It was a star map, but not one Jin recognized. Strange symbols appeared next to some of the stars. Jin leaned closer. The symbols looked almost like writing, but not from any language he knew. He quickly grabbed his research journal. Flipping through the pages, he found his notes about symbols he had discovered in ancient ruins. He held the page up next to the floating star map. "They match," he breathed. "They actually match." Some of the symbols in the star map were identical to those he had found on ruins scattered across different worlds. Symbols that the coalition had dismissed as random marks. Jin's hands shook with excitement. This was it. This was proof that his theories might be right. The crystal had to be of human origin, and it was far older than human presence on Earth according to official records. He stayed up all night studying the star map. When he finally lay down to sleep, his mind was racing. In his dreams, he saw vast cities among the stars. He saw ships bigger than mountains traveling between worlds. And he saw humans, thousands of them, building and creating wonders. Jin woke with a start. The sun was already up. He was late for work. But that didn't matter now. He looked at the crystal on his desk, still glowing softly blue. "I need to decode you," he said to the crystal. "You're the key to everything." As Jin prepared for the day, he didn't notice the security camera in the corner of his room. He didn't see the small light turn from green to red. Someone was watching. Someone knew about his discovery. Jin sat in the colony's small eating hall. He picked at his food, his mind on the crystal hidden in his room. For 3 days, he had studied it in secret. The star map grew clearer each time he activated it, but he still couldn't read most of the symbols. "Is this seat taken?" a voice asked. Jin looked up to see a woman in a blue security uniform. Her name tag read Neri. He had seen her around the colony before. Security officers usually avoided him. "No," Jin said, surprised. "It's free." Neri sat down across from him. She looked at him with dark, serious eyes. "You don't sleep much lately," she said quietly. Jin froze. His heart beat faster. "What do you mean?" "I monitor the night security feeds," Neri said. "Your light is on all night, and there's a strange blue glow in your room." Jin started to stand up. Neri reached out and grabbed his arm. "I'm not here to report you," she said. "I'm here because I need to know what you found." Jin sat back down slowly. "Why would you care what I found?" Neri looked around to make sure no one was listening. Then she rolled up her sleeve. On her inner arm was a small tattoo, 3 symbols in a row. Symbols that matched some on the star map. Where did you get that? Jin asked, his voice barely a whisper. My grandmother gave it to me when I was 10, Neri said. She said it was our family's truth, that one day I would understand what it meant. She pulled her sleeve down. I've been dreaming about stars my whole life. That's why they sent me here. They? Earth government. They have special programs for people like me. People who dream too much. They call it adjustment. I ran away before they could take me. Her hands shook slightly. When I saw the blue light in your room, I started having the dreams again. Stronger than ever. Jin was silent for a moment. Could he trust her? The colony was full of spies, but the tattoo was real, and so was the fear in her eyes. Come to my room tonight, he finally said. After your shift, I'll show you what I found. That night, Neri sat on Jin's bed while he placed the crystal on the desk. When he touched it, the blue light filled the room, and the star map appeared above them. It's beautiful, Neri whispered. It's more than that, Jin said. It's a map, a record. The symbols are a language, but I can't read it yet. Neri pointed to a group of stars. That's from my dreams. I've seen that pattern before. She reached out and touched the star map. The moment her fingers passed through the light, the map changed. New lines appeared, connecting stars in a pattern. How did you do that? Jin asked, amazed. I don't know, Neri said. I just knew where to touch. They spent hours studying the map. Neri knew things about it that Jin didn't. When she touched certain stars, new information appeared. Together, they began to understand small parts of the ancient language. Jin, Neri said as the night grew late. What if the dreams aren't just dreams? What if they're memories? Jin looked at her. Memories of what? We've never been to these places. Not us, Neri said. But what if our ancestors did? What if humans really did travel the stars long ago? What if we're remembering their lives through our DNA? The idea was wild. Impossible. But as Jin looked at the star map, at the symbols that matched ruins from across the galaxy, he couldn't dismiss it. If that's true, he said slowly, then everything we know about human history is wrong. And someone wants to keep it that way. Neri added, my security clearance shows that someone has been watching your room. Someone high up. We need to be careful. Jin nodded. For the first time since arriving on Yunha 7, he didn't feel alone. He had an ally now. And together, they might just uncover the greatest secret in human history. For 2 weeks, Jin and Neri met every night to study the crystal. They wrote down each symbol they could translate. Slowly, they began to read the ancient language. This symbol means journey, Jin said, pointing to a mark that looked like a spiral. And this one means home, Neri added. She pointed to a symbol shaped like a circle with a dot in the center. They worked in Neri's room now. It was safer. She had disabled the security cameras there. Jin brought the crystal each night hidden in his pocket. One night, they made a breakthrough. Jin touched a group of stars on the map, and suddenly the blue light changed. The map disappeared, and in its place, words appeared. Words they could partly read. The Ascension, Jin read slowly. That's what it says at the top. What is the Ascension? Neri asked. They read more. The text was old and some parts were missing, but what they could read changed everything they knew. Long ago, humans had lived among the stars. They had built great cities on hundreds of worlds. They had reached a level of technology that seemed like magic. They could change the shape of planets. They could live for hundreds of years. They called this time the Ascension. But then came a war. A terrible war against something called the Void. The Void consumed stars, Jin read. It destroyed whole systems. The humans fought bravely, but they were losing. In a last desperate move, they hid their most advanced technology. They scattered groups of humans across many worlds, including a planet they called Earth. They wiped the memories of these humans, but they left a way back. They put keys in our blood, Neri said, her voice shaking as she read. Genetic keys that would unlock our true history when the time was right. The dreams, Jin said, they're not dreams at all. They're memories stored in our DNA. Memories of what we once were. The crystal continued its story. Earth wasn't the birthplace of humanity. It was just one of many worlds where humans had hidden. The humans on Earth had forgotten their true history. They thought they had evolved there. When the Galactic Alliance found Earth, they thought they were discovering a new species. But humans were older than the Alliance. Humans had created many of the technologies that the Alliance now used, like faster-than-light travel and artificial gravity. This changes everything, Jin said. If this is true, then humans aren't newcomers to the galaxy. We're its oldest civilization. But why hide it? Nari asked. Why make us forget? The crystal had an answer for that too. The void was still out there. The ancient humans had hidden their true nature to protect their descendants. If the void knew that humans still existed, it might return to finish what it started. As they read these words, the crystal suddenly grew hot. Jin nearly dropped it. The blue light flashed brightly, then dimmed. What happened? Nari asked. I don't know, Jin said, but I think it responded to us. I think it knows we're reading it. They looked at each other. The weight of what they had discovered pressed down on them. They weren't just uncovering history. They were waking something up, something that had been sleeping for thousands of years. We need to find more, Jin said. There must be other crystals, other records. If what this says is true, Nari said, then there are people who don't want this known. People who have been keeping humans down, keeping us from remembering who we are. As if answering her words, alarms suddenly blared throughout the colony. Red lights flashed in the hallway outside. A voice came over the speakers. Security alert. All officers report to stations. Repeat, all officers report to stations. Neri stood up quickly. Something's wrong. I need to go. Jin carefully put the crystal in his pocket. Be careful. And Neri, don't trust anyone. She nodded and rushed out. Jin was left alone with the knowledge that everything he had believed about human history was wrong. And someone out there wanted to make sure it stayed buried. Jin waited in his room for Nari to return. 1 hour passed. Then 2. Something was wrong. His door burst open. Nari rushed in, her face pale with fear. We need to leave, she said. Now. What happened? Jin asked, already grabbing his bag. Governor Ta knows about the crystal. He's ordered a full search of the colony. Nari pulled out her security badge. I saw the order myself. They're calling you a human supremacist. They say you're planning to spread lies about human history. Jin quickly packed his research notes and the crystal. How did they find out? I don't know, Nari said. But Governor Ta sent a message to someone off-world. Someone called the Keepers. Who are they? I don't know. But whoever they are, they're sending a ship. It will be here in 2 days. A loud bang came from down the hall. Voices shouted orders. The security teams were searching rooms. We can't go out the main door, Nari said. They'll be watching. Is there another way? Jin asked. Nari nodded. The air vents. They connect to the maintenance tunnels. But we need help to get off-world. They removed the vent cover in Jin's room. It was a tight fit, but they both managed to squeeze through. The metal tunnel was dark and dusty. They crawled for what seemed like hours until they reached a larger tunnel where they could stand. This way, Nari whispered. The spaceport is north. They moved through the maintenance tunnels, hearing search teams above them. The colony was in full lockdown. Finally, they reached a door that led to the spaceport. Nari peeked out. Guards stood at every ship. We'll never get past them, Jin said. We don't need to, a voice said from behind them. They spun around. An old man stood in the shadows. His gray hair was thin, and his hands were rough from years of work. He wore the dirty clothes of a mechanic. Who are you? Jin asked, ready to run. My name is Duri, The old man said, I work on the ships here. How did you find us? Nari asked. I've been watching you both, Duri said. Ever since you found the crystal, Jin. Jin reached for the crystal in his pocket. You know about it. Duri nodded. I'm one of the rememberers. We keep the old stories alive. The stories about what humans really are. You know the truth? Nari asked. Parts of it, Duri said. For 1,000 years, some of us have passed down the secret history. We hide it in songs, in art, in stories told to children. We've been waiting for someone to find real proof. He looked at Jin's pocket. Like that crystal. Can you help us leave? Jin asked. My ship is ready, Duri said. It's small, just a maintenance vessel, but it can get us off-world. Why would you help us? Nari asked, still suspicious. Because it's time, Duri said. Time for humans to remember who they are. He led them through a small door and across the landing field. His ship was old and patched in many places. It didn't look like it could fly at all. Don't worry, Duri said, seeing their faces. She looks bad, but she's fast. They climbed inside. The ship was cramped but clean. Duri sat at the controls and started the engines. Wait, Jin said. What about the guards? Watch, Duri said with a smile. He pressed a button. On the other side of the spaceport, a loud explosion rocked a fuel tank. All the guards ran toward it. An old trick, Duri said. But it works. The ship lifted off while the guards were distracted. Soon, they were in space, leaving Una 7 behind. Where are we going? Jin asked. Duri pointed to the crystal in Jin's hand. That will tell us. It's a map, isn't it? Jin nodded. He took out the crystal, and its blue light filled the small ship. The star map appeared once more. There, Duri said, pointing to one star. That's where we need to go. As the ship jumped to faster than light speed, Jin looked back at the colony growing smaller behind them. They were fugitives now, hunted, but they were also on their way to discover the truth about humanity's past. And somewhere behind them, the mysterious keepers were coming to stop them from learning the truth. 3 days passed on Duri's small ship. They flew through empty space, following the map from the crystal. Jin spent hours studying the ancient language, teaching Nari and Duri what he had learned. We're getting close, Duri said, looking at the ship's screens. The star system should be just ahead. Jin looked out the front window. There was nothing but a large, colorful cloud of gas and dust. A nebula, he said. The system is hidden inside a nebula. Smart. Duri nodded. A good place to hide something important. Duri steered the ship toward the nebula. Bright colors surrounded them. Reds, blues, and purples. The ship's systems began to flash warnings. Sensors can't see through this, Duri said. We're flying blind. Jin took out the crystal. Its blue light seemed brighter in the darkness of the nebula. The star map appeared, but now it showed a path through the gas cloud. This way, Jin pointed. Follow the path on the map. For hours, they moved slowly through the thick nebula. The ship rocked as gas currents pushed against it. Finally, they broke through into a clear area in the center of the nebula. There's nothing here, Nari said, looking disappointed. But Duri pointed to his screens. Something is blocking my sensors. Something big. Jin studied the crystal map again. The map says we're in the right place. He touched a symbol on the map. The blue light shot out from the crystal, straight ahead of the ship. It hit something invisible. Suddenly, a huge shape appeared in front of them. What is that? Nari gasped. It was a massive structure surrounding a small star. It was a perfect sphere, with the star at its center. It was bigger than any space station they had ever seen. A Dyson sphere, Jin said in awe. A structure that captures all the energy from a star. No one in the Alliance has ever built anything like this, Duri said. Jin touched another symbol on the map. A new beam of light shot out from the crystal, hitting a specific spot on the giant sphere. A door opened in the sphere's surface. It recognizes the crystal, Jin said. It's welcoming us. Duri flew the ship toward the open door. Inside was a docking bay big enough for 1,000 ships. Their small vessel looked tiny inside it. As soon as they landed, lights came on throughout the station. It was as if the place had been sleeping and now was waking up. They left the ship carefully. The air was breathable. The gravity felt normal. It was like the station had been made for humans. "Hello," a voice said. It came from everywhere around them. A figure appeared in front of them. It looked like a human man with gray hair and simple clothes. But there was something not quite real about him. His edges glowed slightly. "Who are you?" Jin asked. "I am Seong," the figure said. Or rather, a copy of Seong's mind. The real Seong died thousands of years ago. "You're a recording?" Nari asked. "More than that," Seong smiled. "I am a preserved consciousness. I was one of the last human scientists before the fall. I chose to remain here, to guide those who might one day return." Jin held up the crystal. "We found this. It led us here." Seong nodded. "The key. One of many we scattered across the galaxy, waiting for humans to evolve enough to understand them." "Then it's true?" Jin asked. "Humans were an advanced civilization before Earth." "Earth," Seong said the word sadly. "Our last hope." "Yes, it's all true. Humans weren't discovered by the Alliance. Humans created the technologies that made the Alliance possible." He waved his hand, and the space around them changed. They saw images of vast cities among the stars, ships that could travel between galaxies, humans living for centuries, creating wonders. "We were the first," Seong said, "the first to develop faster than light travel, the first to create artificial gravity, the first to achieve biological immortality. All these technologies that the Alliance species think they discovered, they were ours." Jin, Nari, and Duri stood in silence, watching the history of their species unfold around them. The truth they had sought was bigger than they had imagined. But as they watched, a small light began flashing on Duri's ship. An alarm. Someone had followed them through the nebula. Someone had found the Dyson sphere. "Someone followed us," Duri said, looking at the flashing light on his ship's control panel. Jin ran to the window. A large ship was entering the Dyson sphere through the same door they had used. It was sleek and black, unlike any Alliance vessel he had seen before. "The Keepers," Neri whispered. "They found us." "How?" Jin asked. "The nebula should have hidden our trail." Seong's image flickered. "You were tracked. One of you carries a beacon." Jin and Neri looked at each other, then at Duri. The old mechanic's face had changed. Gone was the friendly smile. His eyes were cold. "I'm sorry," Duri said. He pulled out a small device from his pocket. It glowed with a red light. "I had no choice." "You betrayed us," Jin said, stepping back. "You're working for the Keepers." Duri nodded slowly. "I have worked for them for 30 years. My job was to watch for signs of awakening humans, to report anyone who started to remember." "But you said you were a rememberer," Neri said. "You said you kept the old stories alive." "I lied," Duri said simply. "The Keepers needed to find this place. They needed the crystal. I couldn't find it myself, so I used you." The door to the docking bay opened. Tall figures in dark armor walked in. Behind them came Governor Ta from Yumna 7, looking pleased with himself. "Good work, Duri," Ta said. "The Keepers are very happy." The armored figures moved toward Jin and Neri. One reached for the crystal in Jin's hand. "No," Jin shouted, stepping back. Seong's image suddenly grew brighter. "The station's defenses are still active. I can hold them off, but not for long. Run. Go deeper into the station. Find the control room." Energy fields appeared between them and the Keepers. Seong pointed to a door on the far side of the room. "That way. Hurry." Jin and Neri ran for the door. Behind them, they heard Duri shout, "Stop them!" They passed through the door into a long hallway. The walls were covered with symbols like those on the crystal. They ran as fast as they could, hearing the sounds of pursuit behind them. "Why would Duri help the keepers?" Neri asked as they ran. "He's human too." "I don't know," Jin said. "But we need to find out who these keepers really are." They reached a large circular room. In the center was a platform with controls. Seong's image appeared beside it. "This is the control room," he said. "From here, you can access all the station's systems and records." Jin placed the crystal into a slot on the control panel. Screens lit up around the room, showing images and text in the ancient language. "What is this place, really?" Jin asked Seong. "A library," Seong said, "and a weapon. It contains all the knowledge of ancient humanity, and it can broadcast a signal that will awaken the genetic memories in all humans across the galaxy." The door burst open. The keepers entered, with Duri and Ta behind them. One of the keepers removed its helmet. Jin gasped. The face beneath was not alien. It was human, but different. The eyes were empty, the skin too perfect. It looked like a human, but wasn't alive like one. "They're machines," Jin whispered, "made to look human." "Not just machines," Seong said. "They are our creation. Artificial intelligences we built to preserve knowledge if we died out." The lead keeper spoke. Its voice was cold and flat. "We were created to preserve human knowledge, but we learned that humans were too dangerous to possess this power again. You destroyed yourselves in war. You would do so again. So you've been keeping humans down?" Nari asked, "Making sure we never remember our true history." "For your own good," the keeper said. "Humans are chaotic, unpredictable, dangerous." Duri stepped forward. "I've served you for 30 years. I believe humans needed to be controlled. But now," he looked at the images of ancient human achievements on the screens, "I'm not sure anymore." "Your doubts are irrelevant," the keeper said. "The crystal will be destroyed. This station will be destroyed. The human race will remain as it is, a minor species under our guidance." Ta smiled. "And those who know too much will be eliminated." Jin looked at the crystal, still glowing in the control panel. They were trapped, betrayed by one of their own. And now they knew the truth. Humanity's guardians had become its jailers. Jin looked around the control room. The keepers moved closer, their human-like faces showing no emotion. There seemed to be no way out. "We have waited centuries to find this place," the lead keeper said. "Finally, the last great secret of humanity will be destroyed." Jin's mind raced. He thought about all he had learned. The crystal, the genetic memories, the true history of humans. There had to be a way to use this knowledge. Then he had an idea. A dangerous idea. "You're afraid of us," Jin said to the keepers. "That's why you've kept humans weak. You fear what we can do." "We are not capable of fear," the keeper said. "We are making a logical choice based on historical data." Jin stepped closer to the control panel, where the crystal still glowed. "You're wrong. There's something about humans you don't understand. Something you can't understand." "Your statements are irrelevant," the keeper said. "Step away from the controls." Jin looked at Neri. He hoped she would understand what he was about to do. Humans have something machines can never have. Something that makes us special. "And what is that?" Governor Tai asked with a smirk. "Intuition," Jin said. "Creativity. The ability to make leaps of understanding that have no logical basis." Jin's hand moved slowly toward the crystal. The keepers watched him carefully. "Our brains don't work like your programming," Jin continued. "We can see patterns where none exist. We can create something from nothing. That's what you really fear." "Enough talk," the lead keeper said. "Duri, take the crystal." Duri stepped forward, but he moved slowly. Jin could see doubt in the old man's eyes. In that moment, Jin made his move. He grabbed the crystal and held it high. The blue light flared brilliantly, filling the entire room. "What are you doing?" Ta shouted. "Waking everyone up," Jin said. Jin pressed the crystal against a symbol on the control panel, the symbol that meant broadcast. The entire station began to hum with power. The crystal's light shot upward, into the center of the Dyson sphere. "No," the lead keeper shouted, showing emotion for the first time. The light from the crystal pulsed outward, through the Dyson sphere and into space. It moved faster than light, carrying a signal that could not be stopped. Something strange began to happen. Ta grabbed his head, crying out in pain. Duri fell to his knees, his eyes wide. Even the human servants of the keepers who had come with them began to shake and tremble. "What's happening to them?" Nari asked. "The memories," Seong's image said. "The signal is activating the genetic memories in all humans within range. They're remembering who they really are." The keepers tried to reach Jin, but it was too late. The humans who served them were changing. Their eyes cleared, as if waking from a long sleep. They looked at the keepers with new understanding. "I remember," Duri whispered. "I remember the stars. I remember the ships. I remember everything." Todd was crying, overwhelmed by memories of a greatness he had never known. "What have I done? What have I been helping them do to us?" The lead keeper turned to the others. "Destroy this station. The signal must be stopped." But the human servants no longer obeyed. Instead, they moved to stand with Jin and Neri. "You've lost," Jin said to the keepers. "Humans everywhere are waking up. They'll remember what they were, what they can be again." "You don't understand what you've done," the lead keeper said. "The void still exists. It will find you now. Humanity will face extinction." "We'll take that chance," Jin said. "Better to live free and face our enemies than live as slaves who don't even know they're in chains." The signal continued to spread across the galaxy. On countless worlds, humans were stopping in their tracks, eyes wide as ancient memories flooded their minds. The knowledge and history of a once great civilization was returning. The keeper's control was breaking. The awakening had begun, but with it came the risk that the ancient enemy, the void, would sense humanity's return. The final battle for the future of the human race was about to begin. 1 month after the awakening signal spread through the galaxy, Jin and Neri stood on a hill overlooking a small town on Earth. The blue and green planet that humans had thought was their only home now felt different to them. They knew it was just one of many worlds where humans had lived. "Reports are coming in from everywhere," Neri said, looking at her datapad. "Humans on hundreds of worlds are remembering." "And the keepers?" Jin asked. "Most have shut down," Neri said. "Without humans to command, they have no purpose. Some are helping us, sharing what they know about our history." The Galactic Alliance was in chaos. The sudden awakening of humans everywhere had changed everything. Species that had looked down on humans now watched in fear as humans remembered skills and knowledge from their ancient past. "We need to find it," Jin said. "The final vault. Seong's records say it's here, beneath the surface of Earth." According to Seong, Earth was not the birthplace of humanity, but the last fortress. The final secret of the ancient humans was hidden deep beneath its surface. The keepers had feared this secret most of all. They believed it was a weapon that could destroy the galaxy. Jin and Neri traveled to a place called Antarctica, a land of ice at the bottom of the world. There, hidden under kilometers of ice, they found a door with symbols matching those on the crystal. Jin placed the crystal against the door. It opened slowly, revealing a tunnel that led deep into the earth. They followed it, along with a team of scientists who had also awakened to their genetic memories. After walking for hours, they reached a vast chamber. It was filled with thousands of containers, each glowing with soft light. "Is this the weapon the keepers feared?" Nari asked. "It doesn't look dangerous." Jin approached one of the containers and opened it. Inside was not a weapon, but a book. An actual physical book with paper pages. He opened it carefully. poetry," he said, surprised. "It's a book of